everybody. And the regulars that are always on before me at the meetings are not here before me at the meetings, which says a lot.
Mhm.
So I don't think we're gonna, maybe we'll keep this short and maybe we'll just have some quick updates. And note taker, um I can be somebody's anonymous sheet is on here. There's several people on here. I could take notes. I don't think there's going to be a lot of notes. We should start maybe with a few community updates, committee updates. We need to say, and I want Jay and Mark and Natasha to be here tonight. Natasha's not coming anyways. Natasha, by the way, is getting married next month, so she'll be missing next month's wedding. But we should say a special thank you and goodbye to Erica since she will be leaving us. Although I'm hoping since she's going to Wisconsin Greenfire, we can con her into coming back once in a while.
I think you can.
Uh, may I ask, do you know what your position is there yet?
Yeah, it's the membership and philanthropy coordinator.
Oh,
So very
cool.
different, but
Very
but not
different.
not totally different because as Northland, over the years that I've been with Northland, as they constricted departments, I had to take on more and more of those types of duties. So it's not, believe it or not, it's not totally out of my purview. It's actually quite within it.
Yeah, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
So, we have to say goodbye and hopefully see her again to Erica. Nancy Sheehan is also leaving Journey North
I
as of tomorrow, I believe.
think so. Yeah.
So I don't think she'll be attending our meetings anymore. Do you know where she's going at all, Erica? I have not heard.
I don't. She has not made that announcement, but
Yes, so um when we know, we'll let everybody know. So we have to say thank you to Nancy again, and I would have loved to have done it in person, but she's not here today. Um, Jay and Natasha and Mark just are not here. Jay might be at the ornithology convention. I'm not sure.
he's just doing so much traveling this summer. I can't keep up with him.
The poor dear.
Yeah.
Uh, and those are updates. So the committee and I are the steering committee and I are gonna have to meet and see about adding a couple more people to the steering committee. So if anybody is interested in that role, they're welcome to join us. And including the wake boat committee because Erica subcommittee because Erica was part of that. Other announcements to include, I'm going to put this up so people can grab it. The Dr. Crick Hauser Ontario research webinar was in July and I missed it. And I don't know if any of you managed to attend it, but that's a YouTube link for it. So that may be of value to see. I would have given you a summary, but I wasn't able to attend. And the only other thing I had was just having a roundtable of hellos and discussions of how things are doing. But I think I was thinking about that, and I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to start by sharing some slides because we had this year the very earliest hurricane ever. So, in
Oh,
my basis of knowledge, we have never had a hurricane impact loon breeding before. And I may be wrong on that, but I feel that way. I have seen hurricanes travel through up the Mississippi and into the Great Lakes region in August. But these are maps of the rainfall events with Hurricane Beryl when it came through. So that first one here, can you all see this map okay?
yes.
So this is the pathway up through Grand Rapids, which I mean, it's not hurting hurricane loons there, but this is a flood zone risk for Burlington, Denise, and the area that they were concerned about flooding. And
Does
that's a
that make
large.
sense, Denise, to you as your drive through?
Yeah, you just went right through it.
We just went right through it. It was
You went
it
right
was
through it.
something.
Yeah,
Goodness.
and so then we're going to switch over to Canadian maps here, and these are maps of water levels, water expectations. So I am down here. Loon's Nest here and through here And then this is to that same area that needs it
Mhm.
and through there. So you see, we've had a major rain. I had put it in here. What was it here? I'm just getting these numbers. So 50 millimeters, the light yellow is 2 inches, 75 millimeters, which is the red, is 3 inches of water.
Mhm.
So on a small watershed, that's a lot of water. 100 millimeters, which they're saying like up here, that's 4 inches. So I know that there was flooding. Well, Toronto flooded out, but they don't have many loons in Toronto. Um, Ottawa had major flooding. It looks like this area, Quebec, had flooding. And I know that if we go to the next map, I know that there was major flooding and damage in this area. And Laura and I had a discussion with one of the Quebec parts last year, and they only have one hatch a year, and that's hatches mid-July. So we may see something we have to, again, these rain events may be something we got to be that much more aware of and the impact on hatch. And that might want to be a discussion we have with others. And I see Tracy's joined us, I think, down there. I just see the top of her head. Uh, and that's just something that I thought I'd bring to everybody's attention because I'm starting to think I have to change my messaging on Loon platforms just a little bit to allow for these flooding events. Um, Mind you, I think on a tight watershed, if you have 4 inches and it's got a lot of shallow watershed that feeds into it, that's a lot of water in one little area. So I thought I'd share that before we go over an update from folks. Um, and see how everybody's doing. Can I stop my
Could I
sharing?
share some slides too, Kathy?
Yeah, sure.
I have like the same kind of stuff that's been happening for many years in Wisconsin, and I've just documented some of it. Hang on.
So you have access now.
Okay, here we go. So this was in 2012, and this is Wisconsin, sort of that darker outline, northern Wisconsin, I should say. So we had, you know, three to anywhere from 2 to 5 inches on that rain event, and that was June 19th to 20th of 2012. And then it just seemed to get worse. This was in 2016. This was the July. People remember where they were because of the flooding rains. And this was on one day. And we had anywhere from 2 to 10 inches in an even bigger swath of Wisconsin. And that affected loon nesting habitat. And then this was July, this was the Father's Day storm of 2018. This was June 18th. This did flood out nests. So this was anywhere from 2 to 15 inches in an even larger area of Wisconsin. This is Minnesota over here in Wisconsin. And then more recently in 2020, it's like we're having like 500 to 1,000-year storms every 2 years. And here's, another one in 2020. This was a slightly different part of Wisconsin, but anywhere from 2 to 10 inches. So yeah, I this is in my PowerPoints. I ask loon rangers when they have these big events and it affects nesting, they need to put this on their monitoring form.
So that's maybe that's a quick fix is we just add it to the monitoring form. Say, tell us when you have an extreme rain event and how much you get.
Mhm.
We have attempted to monitor flooding for years, and we found it didn't work very well because it all depends on, you can tell people, okay, make sure it's in a straight line, put a stick at the end of the dock and measure it, but they still do shoreline. So I find it sometimes can be quite difficult,
Mhm.
but
I think if it's affecting like nesting on natural nesting areas, that's going to be the barometer for our folks at least. And the other thing that I tell folks is because of these rain events, and then followed sometimes by drought events, that maybe artificial nesting platforms are going to be a solution for this too, as we continue into the era of climate change.
That's my thought is I see a greater use of platforms, and we have no control on them in Canada. It's like Maverick, we can advise and they can be ignored. Uh, but
Hmm.
That's basically how it works.
Does anyone else have slides or experiences that they'd like to share? Denise, most recently with your drive.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
don't
say
know
I
if
don't have
everyone.
slides. I'm kind of still learning like how to participate in this group since I kind of just started in my job. But I can say it's just kind of anecdotal is that um during a lot of this rain we did have two chicks that appeared to have just drowned in the rain.
Huh.
So two chicks, I believe they were both from a Lake Placid nest. And I believe again, it's all anecdotally. I would go back and check because I'm not the one who goes out and collects, but it looks like the rain was just so hard and so fast and they were so small that they just did not survive.
Hey, Denise, were these chicks still on the nest or were they out in the water with their
That,
parents?
That's what I would have to check because I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I just know that Griffin, our research biologist, said that he had to go out and collect two dead chicks that were in perfect condition. They just did not survive the rain event.
No.
So, and I again, I didn't see them, and but I believe it was enough time ago that they probably were like around 2 weeks old, if they're the nest I think they were from. But I would have to go back and check. Again, this is all just very anecdotal, but that surprised me. That
Was this during the barrel event?
that's what I can't remember. We've had a lot of storms. We've had a lot of major rain events that have dropped a couple inches at a time just this summer. Just in the last, just June and July. Beryl was probably the roughest one, like the longest period, but we've had several storms that have dropped lots of rain, and have been flooding nests. So
And
I would
how
have to
can
go
you
check.
be, and how can we be sure, and I don't negate your information, but how do we as a group be sure that that is a drowning due to rain versus a drowning to territorial invasion or something like that? Wouldn't they look exactly the same?
Yeah, and that's where again I'm just kind of sharing. I'm still like again I'm
Yeah.
not a researcher. I'm an education and
Mhm.
communications person, so
Yeah.
I have to kind of go back and check with our biologists and like what
Yeah.
they would like me to bring to these meetings and what they would like me to share. That's just
Mhm.
what I am observing that they're doing is they're going out and
Kathy,
every
if
time we
I,
have a rain event, they're responding to it.
yeah.
So we did have a loon that we rescued. It was a grounded loon that pretty sure that it was caught up in the storm. That was like right after the storm, so we're pretty sure that can't say for sure, but pretty sure that that loon was affected and came down on the road because it was caught in the storm. So
Well, we got I missed it. I'm quite annoyed that I missed it. We had a brown booby showed up on Lake Erie that's been wandering around and sitting on a Coast Guard craft, and I've not managed to see it.
Wow.
It would be nice to see. Um,
Yeah,
Tracy, and how
yeah.
about your area?
Yeah, in Maine. So this year and last year completely different. So this year it's really spotty. So in some places are down, 2 feet, and others are up, have the, however many feet. And so it's just, whereas last year it was pretty much everywhere was flooding. But yeah, so here you have to look lake by lake to see what the conditions are because there's so many of these like micro bursts that have been happening. And same with trees down. There are places all over where they're just these little microburst trees down, sets of trees down. So that's been interesting this year. Last year, what was interesting is that even though there was so much more flooding, we still on naturalness, a lot of loons did better. A lot of the pairs that we target because they've had abysmal success, the ones we target with rafts, and the ones that didn't choose to use the rafts and naturally actually did better. And so the only thing I could think of is that so few people were out because docks were floating away and it was just miserable outside. So those are the ones I'm thinking, okay, that they might be the ones to target for disturbance type outreach. The ones that did well for the first time in 10, 20 years when it was some of the worst weather that I remember. So yeah, every year is so different. Mark, do you have anything to add on to that? Anything you've been hearing or seeing? around me.
Not really, I just because of family issues, I've had minimal time on the lakes.
Yeah.
Summer, that's going to continue. But Tracy, I think I sent you the Toddy Pond information there, where actually Toddy Pond is probably, I think it's an average water level. It's about right where it's been for most of the last 20 years, not up or down.
Yeah. Mhm.
And there was a fair production of chicks there this year, but we lost most of them to eagles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Eagles they've been really rough this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to make a quick comment back to what Kathy was talking about earlier on about this drowning versus drowning kind of a thing. And I'm not an expert on this. I think we could talk to a real pathologist. But when I think about, a small chick, downy chick, a couple of weeks old out on the lake, and as you say, 2-3 inches per hour. I mean, what you're dealing with is the plumage getting soaked and the bird getting really cold really fast. And I think that if you got the cadaver fresh, there are things that one could look at postmortem and histopathology, versus a chick that was, held underwater by another loon or hit by a boat or something. And I think the differences you see would largely be in the respiratory tract. I think that a chick that drowned due to hypothermia and cold probably wouldn't have significant fluid in the trachea and esophagus and lungs and so forth, air sacs. But I say that without being an expert on it, so take it with a large grain of salt.
Related to extreme weather events, in Minnesota this summer, we had a big instance of hail, and people linking or thinking about the connection between the impact on loons, mostly chicks, from impacts from hail, and whether that would be a cause of mortality or linked to mortality. I didn't know exactly, but I know that was some questions and that some things people have been observing this year out on the lake as well. Whether it just it was incidental that the situations happened at the same time, or whether they could be related.
Yeah. Well, when you think about hail, I mean, what I'm thinking about is it's basically blunt force trauma. You've got a chick that's being hit by something. And again, if you've got a cadaver that's not too far gone, that should be pretty easy to detect the bruising, or in fact, I mean, you get a big hailstone that hit a small chick and you would probably have associated fractures of something. So it feels to me like sort of the luck of the draw, the hailstones, but it can happen, I'm sure.
Laura, have you gotten any interesting things? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you're on mute, but can't hear you.
Oh, well, maybe you can type it in and I'll read it for you. That's about all I can suggest. For some reason, Zoom does not want you to talk. Oh, did you just try that again? Did you just talk?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
quiet. It's very quiet. Can you turn the volume up?
So weird. I don't know why it doesn't work well. I'm all up.
Well, that's better.
Okay, well, let's do it like that. Well, I don't have much to add, I guess. I just remember a discussion we had with Adine from the Sepak Park, Kathy.
Yeah.
Where she mentioned that last year they had really, really poor results on the lakes that she monitors in Quebec because of probably a flooding event. It was just as this year on July 10th last year. So yeah, I guess that's something that we're gonna see happening more often in the following years. But yeah, I don't have, I don't have anything else to add, but yeah, somebody mentioned that they had really, well, almost no ticks, I think, on, I don't remember how many lakes she surveyed, but, and it was probably related to the flooding event.
She
last year.
surveys a lot. I think she surveys
Yeah.
like 20 lakes.
Hmm.
And no, it's an
And she reached
interesting,
out because of that. Yeah.
I think it's north enough to have missed the barrel problem, but that doesn't mean they haven't had a problem. But it's kind of like, I think, am I following the location right, Laura? It's a small area that has mountainous regions on two sides. And so the watershed is probably
Ah,
quite tight. Like, and they'll be old mountains. They won't be Rocky style mountains, but
sure.
old mountains. Um, and she says that she has never seen a second hatch in that area, and she's been doing it for a lot of years.
Huh.
She's only seen hatch that tends to hatch right in July. So, and that in itself is interesting because I've seen chicks in Ontario that are already 6 weeks old. Well, other ones have newborns. So it's all over the place right now, I think, with the age and the health of the chicks.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Kathy,
for
do you think
Wisconsin,
that? Sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if you see between Ontario and Quebec in those areas differences in timing of ice out.
Potentially, but at the same time, a lot of our chicks in those areas that early have early ice out, a lot of the pairs still don't nest early.
Yeah.
But we seem to have pockets where they nest early. There's
Mhm.
certainly, if a dean's place is in a higher elevation, we have some areas in Quebec that are higher elevations. They're certainly going to have later ice out, but it doesn't seem to have as much of an effect in Eastern Canada. Out in Western Canada, in BC, they nest early every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I know like some places like the Rideau tends to nest early, the Rideau Lake system. And but in Muskokas, for example, it's hit or miss. Some nest early, some don't. I don't have a good answer.
I was really curious this year if we would see earlier nesting because there were places that iced out a month and a half or more
Yeah.
earlier than normal, but it seems like it didn't happen. That they still stayed on track, and a lot of them just didn't nest at all this year. We have whole lake systems where there's been no nesting this year on any
Mhm.
territory.
Mhm.
Well,
We
if go ahead, Mark.
I don't mean to keep interrupting. No, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just thinking if body condition's the issue and they are coming back earlier and staging to the Great Lakes, or if they're staying all winter on the Great Lakes, because I think Superior was the only Great Lake that froze last winter. So
Barely.
if this, yeah, barely. So if
Wow.
they're staying on the Great Lakes, are they in that much better of a body condition when they return? And is this going to be some kind of a generational learning curve? And as
Mhm.
parents do this, I don't know how the chicks would learn to also do the same pattern of migration. But as parents learn to come back earlier, we're going to get these patches of early versus late nesting. Since the storms seem to be happening in that June timeframe, like perhaps that's my bias, but I feel like we're getting a lot of storms in June versus in early May and April, where we used to get all the rain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the comment I was going to make, and it was relative to what Tracy was saying. There's some lakes in central Massachusetts, and we've talked about this before, Quabbin Reservoir and Wachusett and so forth, that don't freeze over anymore, and where loons, in fact, are wintering the entire winter on some of those lakes. And those loons are not nesting early. Even though they're there the whole winter, they're nesting at when they nested 30, 40 years ago.
Well, you wonder if their instincts are going to tell them to go further north then.
Well, this may be having to do with the longevity of the birds. I mean, some of these birds are the ones that probably were nesting there 25 years ago. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And can the northern pairs succeed? Like we have pairs that have been identified as far north as Rankin Inlet. And
Yeah.
if you guys, yeah, and I did the math and I looked up the number of frost-free days in Rankin Inlet, and I'm thinking there's no way they're getting chicks off. But as climate change changes,
Yeah.
will they? Or and I'm sure polar bear is going to love eating them. Probably. Um. So yeah, it's a lot of questions, but we can't answer. Ethan, did you have anything you wanted to share? Or are you just sitting in and rather stay in the background?
This is my crew.
Oh, we're just Tracy's crew observing.
Well, welcome.
It's like 6 of us. I don't know. Do
And
we have anything to add? No. I think to comment on the hail, I will say one of my territories, one of my specific ponds, told me about a crazy hail event that came through while an adult was nesting. And this was a pond that had been failing for 10 plus years. And the loon stayed on the nest. The hail event didn't end up impacting the adult, and it ended up hatching a chick from that natural nest after 10 years of no nesting.
Wow.
So that's one of those things where you just can't explain, I guess. That I'll add my 2 cents with that.
I would think that's like comparable to us going down a road and getting hit in a rock slide. Like it's
Yeah.
the
Being
likelihood
in
is
the
so
wrong place
low.
at the wrong time. Yeah.
Wrong place at the wrong time. Well, that's great. That's a great share, and I'm glad I actually gave us suggestions to share stuff too. Anybody have any updates on just how it's doing in their area? Like, Erica, do you have anything to share?
I would say kind of similar to what other people are saying. This year with the early ice out, we didn't have super early nesting, but I would say approximately 2 weeks earlier than normal. And so, but we also had really bad black fly outbreaks. So right now you can see chicks of all ages. It's pretty nuts because we had even some third nesting attempts that I was hearing about from loon rangers.
Wow.
So there's
Third
some chicks
nesting
that are probably,
attempts?
yep, there are some chicks that are probably close to 2 months, and there are some chicks that are just a week or two. Yep. So it's a huge range in Wisconsin this year, and I know that with my departure, there are going to be some loon rangers that are really worried when we get into the fall and are their chicks going to make it? But because it's been so darn warm, I just can't imagine. And this past year too, like in December and January, there were adult loons that were rescued in Montana, in Wisconsin. So there's, things are changing, and I think they're changing pretty quick. And I think we all need to be kind of on top of that too, as much as we can be.
One note too, just we saw a lot more winter plumage adults on the lakes than usual. Yeah, normally that's so rare, but so I was wondering, is it something to do with body condition that they're not? I don't know. What are the theories of why there'd be so many more this year than we've seen?
And Tracy, related to that, we've seen some of the same sorts of things in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, more birds that aren't in full adult plumage that are in, some odd intermediate plumage. And one of the questions John Cooley has been asking is, are these New England birds? Or are these Midwestern birds that have stopped here or gotten stuck here or something? And on the ones that we've necropsied, we've kept, tissue samples for population genetics. But they're all in the freezer at the moment.
So you think they might be Western?
For the ones we handled, which is again not a random subset, they also tended to be small, often smaller than New England birds. So we're looking at them and thinking, it doesn't look like a New Hampshire bird. That looks like a Minnesota bird.
I noticed that some have been smaller, and yep. And people,
So that's interesting because you're also only getting necropsy ones that are already in some kind of a trauma event or a health event already.
Right.
So you could see why they would perhaps stay back, but you would think by now the health would have improved, or you know what I mean? So if they're still there now, is it the same cohort as what was seen that you guys were getting the necropsies on?
Yeah, we need a much smarter epidemiologist on this than I am, because of course, not only are we thinking about the climate change issue and, temperature and rainfall, but we've also got new parasites, we've got new infectious diseases that are all impacting, the health and well-being of these animals too. And
Now, I would like to go back to this third brooding attempt. How often are you guys seeing this? Like, I work on the assumption that we don't have third
never.
brooding attempts,
Yeah.
but
We
you're pretty
have-
sure you're having them?
Not very often, but I have heard from loon rangers, and actually probably in more recent years, of third nesting attempts. I'd have to look back and see if they're successful. I know of one that was, and they were very concerned that it would not freeze in, that it would get big enough to migrate, and it did, from my recollection.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's not common, but it's happening.
We've had the same a few years ago, one on Cabascanti Lake, the pair, 3 times, and then Sabbath Day too. Yeah, so we 2 that I know of, and there's probably more that I don't know of.
I
This
have
is-
sat down and done the math on how late they can go to breed. And I would think that even in August, if they hatch like at August 1st weekend,
Yeah,
they should be able to readily get off of Wisconsin Lake.
Yep.
Yeah.
especially
you-
if they're freezing up later, yeah.
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 Are you seeing them after with the hatches later than that?
Me? No.
No. I think I may
Not
have seen
yet.
it.
I don't know if this year is going to be,
Yeah.
unusual, but this year has been very unusual in terms of nesting and hatching chicks, because we have like this huge range.
It's make it hard to quality control data. My data compiler and I are sitting and look at this and say, we can no longer say that a chick that's in August is 6 weeks old. There's no
No.
way we can guarantee it. So we got to have background information. If they don't give us enough weeks of knowledge for hatch, and we've always kind of done it that way, but we're finding that we're having to be more careful with that data because of it. And I would love to see us hit the point sometime where we have less quality control to do. I'm not seeing it. I think it's going to become more important.
I send an e-newsletter with pictures of loons. Fortunately, Linda Grenzer has this great
Yeah,
amount of pictures, and it shows like a chick that is a day old all the way, 7 days old, and then going, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, all the way to fledgling size. And so it's very helpful, I think, for loon rangers. And I've tried to get Northland to put it on our website, and they're like, oh, it's just too much, it's too big. So I put it in the newsletter, and they eat that up, and they use it a lot too. And I encourage them to take photographs. I think photographs are going to be the new metadata that we're going to be counting on as well.
yeah. Erica, if you
Yeah.
need the website to put that up on, we can arrange that.
Ooh, okay, that would be fantastic, Mark.
Yeah.
I know that Linda will, I'll send you the photographs. So
Yeah,
that'd be
and I'll check with Linda.
okay. She'll probably
We-
send them to you too.
Now, Jay and Erica were kind enough to help me do one earlier in the year for Ontario. And Doug convinced me to take it down to 6 images. He says it's too fussy with more than that. I don't know if you guys can see this or not.
Not yet.
Can you see that? Does that link work for any of you? It might not be.
Oh, I see the link. Hold on. I
The
wasn't
link.
in the chat. Let me try.
It might be internal. I never know which links are internal and which ones are not.
Hello and welcome. My name is Diane Piquette, and
yeah.
I'm chair of
I
St.
can
see
Louis
it.
Lakes.
Yeah.
No, it's opening.
Increasing
Yeah.
concerns. Hello and welcome. My name is Diana Piquette, and I'm chair of Safe Quiet Lakes. We have been
Is that
hearing
you,
increasing concerns
Mark?
about excessive
Yeah,
boat weights as a
I'll
major
turn that-
lake issue.
I'm sorry. I'll turn that off. Yeah.
I want to watch that too. We discussed that earlier. That's the new Dr. Chris Hauser.
Yeah,
wake-
that's what I got when I clicked on that link.
Oh, I sent you the wrong link. All right, grab a direct link. Let's see what this one gives you. Oh, you're right. That is one. My computer's going to be ornery and doesn't want to take a link for me. I'll show it to you this way.
Yeah, just share.
I don't even see it now.
No, neither do I. You have a lot of tabs up though.
I always have a lot of tabs up. I'm bad for that. That's why they gave me such a big computer. All right, I'm just closing down a few things here. If I close down too much, I'm going to lose you guys all. Oh, why is this not working? I'm going to blame it on Microsoft.
We blame everything else on Microsoft.
I'll put it up this way. All right, that's the wrong one. What I am involved with is too many projects at once. I don't know if you guys have those days.
Oh.
Okay,
yeah.
you see a loon?
I do. Common Loon graphics.
Yes, so I have a lot of them. Where is it here? I don't have it on this website. Okay, now that's all right. This is what you call not knowing what you're doing.
Let's see some grebes.
There. Yes, I like grebes.
Me too. They're great. And very few people really focused on them, unfortunately.
That's
Oh.
the French version.
It probably is. I don't know why that's up and not the English. But we basically put on three
The English
graphics.
one is
Yep.
up and right.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I open this in a new tab? I want to get it bigger.
Or maybe just download it.
Yeah. You see, listen to this. Laura knows my website better than I do. Let's
Laura,
not talk about
it's
how.
good for us to all practice the French version. Yeah.
All right, so
Mon
that's
français ce n'est pas très bon.
well, he's not. All right, so this is what I put together, and it's a lot smaller. I had like 12 photos to begin with, and Doug says that's too much, you confuse people. But Jay and I helped me with this, and I have it readily available online if anybody sees it. Well, you've been seeing me painfully walk through is the media portal I have available to volunteers if they want to do their own lake association information. But I could even put, if Doug agrees, I could even put Erica yours up here as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Or
That'd
I
be
can
great.
just put it up and just not tell them about it afterwards. I can do that too. But
Sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness.
it is.
There you
And
go.
I have moving back towards asking for chick age. We used to ask for chick age all the time. I don't have the programming done yet. It's painful to getting programming done, but we will eventually start asking for chick age as well. It just, I think there's so much changes happening. Yep. Oh, Laura put it up. Thank you, Laura. So where were we? Anybody else have anything to share?
I have an update that's a little bit unrelated to what we've been talking about, but somewhat related to departures. So I will be departing from the Minnesota DNR and our Loon Restoration Project here in Minnesota, and I will be going to graduate school. So I'll be attending Iowa State University, and I'll be studying the relationship between wetland birds, such as secretive marsh birds and trumpeter swans, and water quality in the prairie pothole region. So I'll be departing here at DNR, but I'm hoping to still stay tuned to Loon conversations and still be part of the conversation. So hoping to continue to participate, but just in a different capacity in my graduate studies. So I'll be leaving in mid-August, so this will be my last meeting with the Minnesota DNR. And yeah, that's kind of my update. And another update, I got to go to New Hampshire last week, and I got to see Mark over there and participate in some volunteers in the New Hampshire Loon Festival. It was an exciting Loon month for me, definitely very busy, and some updates coming soon. So yeah, that's an update for me.
Well, thank you for sharing, and sorry to see you go. That's three, unfortunately, because we already mentioned Nancy and Erica earlier. You missed that, and I thanked both of them. Mark, it's hard to thank Nancy right now. Jaden, keep an eye out for work by Dr. Doug Tozer, who technically is my boss, but he doesn't like to admit it. He has run the Long Point Waterfowl and Wetland Foundation or Fund for many years, and that includes research along that line all around the Lower Great Lakes. And he's preeminent in his wetland bird work.
Yeah.
So
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy.
Congratulations, Jaden. That's awesome.
Thank
Great.
you. Thank you. I know I'm sad to be leaving Loons, but I'm hoping that what I learn will be able to be applied in the future and bring to the loon conservation world in a couple of years. So, yeah.
you never really leave loons.
Yeah.
No, we'll always circle back around. I was noticing we've got our Washington State crew there. I see
Yes.
Ben and Ginger and the whole is that the
We
BRI
have-
contingent at the back
We
there?
have some help. We brought help.
Yeah,
I
thank
see
you,
that.
Mark. I'm Daniel Polishuk. This is Ginger, and most of you know us. This is Ginger Stout, who is a veterinarian and has worked with loons, and Carl Brown, who is the Western Associate for Loon Work from BRI. And we're all here
Ginger, your
together.
hair got so
We had to
long.
join late. We were a little late joining, but we're here.
Mark's talking to Ginger.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, I just said Ginger, your hair got so long since I saw you
All
last.
right. I know, right? It's
Yeah.
been a couple of years.
So for the Western crew, we've just been having some updates. We don't have anything major to do this week, which is kind of a nice change. But we were discussing the impact of water events, which like extreme water events, which probably is not something you guys are dealing with this year. I think potentially some areas of the West will be dealing with fire events, which we don't have that much knowledge of in our office yet. But if you guys have any updates you want to share, feel free.
There was one thing I noticed. You were showing chick aging.
Yes.
We also had done chick aging on a weekly progress and went into, I think, year and a half, 2 years, even into subadult plumage. And it was in the book, our first book, Call of the Loon. But if anybody wants to use those pages, they're quite accurate.
And they're with photographs.
And they're with photographs. There's description of the chick progress in the plumage, etc. That was written by Dave Evers.
Yeah, Ginger, would you be okay with having that put up on a website so people could see it?
Certainly.
Yes, sure. Certainly.
Okay, well, let's talk about how to make that happen.
Well, there's two
then,
options. There's two options I can think off the top of my head, and I don't mean to put my media portal in the lead, but it's just convenient for me. We can drop them for sure on the Google Drive that we share as a working group, but that's only internal. I can make a media portal for the group. Now the catch with that is just like the one that in the link that Laura just put up on the website.
Mhm.
You can see the documents on it and you can download and share those documents, but you can't see any details on it. So you can't see who made it, who wrote it, yada, yada, yada. Because it's I have access to all that stuff because it's branded for public use. Others don't. So that's another option. Right now, the only reason I'm suggesting that is because we don't have a paid for web portal option for the group. So if we wanted something like that for our people, we could. I think it's just as easy to put on the Google Drive though, and we can share it from the Google Drive.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we'll
I think
Okay,
that's a
we
great
can
idea.
coordinate with Mark on that.
yeah, we'll coordinate and get that done. But are you guys needing to leave?
Well, it sounds like you ought to coordinate with Kathy on that, I think.
Okay.
Why don't you
Okay,
say
fine.
goodbye?
Very
And our guests are unfortunately leaving.
good.
Good to see you, Mark.
They have to get over to Montana where they're going to work on more loons over there.
And they have a meeting where Carl's giving a talk, a presentation, so they have a long drive and they're on their way. So we momentarily will say goodbye to them, and then if you want to, we noticed maybe we're going to talk about loon shooting, and I don't know if that was on that menu, Mark.
No,
or
it's
was
an
that
it's an update menu, so it can change as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna talk about that with the next group, with the rescue and rehabilitation group, but we can talk about it with this group if you
Okay.
like.
Very
Okay,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we know a lot about fires.
Yes,
Yeah, it
Yeah, we
burned
have a
right,
smoky day here right now.
right down to the shore of all around the lakes where some of our loons had young chicks that were not flying yet. And the adults did not leave. They stayed with the chicks.
Now,
Even
is that
though
the California wildfires or the BC wildfires?
Washington.
Washington.
Well, you have your own set, of course.
Yes. We had 1.5 million acres one year burning all
Yeah.
at once.
Yeah.
So, and it was mainly in a lot of our loon territory, our loon lakes.
So I
Yeah.
think what we'll do is we will sign off for the day and join you on your next meeting.
Unless you want to hear about our shooting, which, you know,
And Ginger can give you those details.
yeah. Well, I'll
If
say
you-
goodbye if you want to
well,
discuss
the
that.
other question I would have, and this I think links to our Canadian friends, weren't you guys just up in BC doing some loon work?
Carl was, but
Oh,
the
okay.
truck broke down and we never
Oh.
got the truck. We were ready to
I'm
go.
so
We
sorry.
had our boat and everything packed.
It broke down in California and that's the only one they could come up with. So
Oh
it
my
had to
gosh,
make your
I'm so
engine work.
sorry.
It canceled our whole our trip up there, which was unfortunate.
So
Yeah.
we may be going up there next year and we'll go up and, you know, take our boat.
Okay.
Truck. I guess a lot of the lakes are not easy to get into, but Carl, you went up, so
I
give a,
kind of missing that one.
oh, Carl missed it too.
All right, so we'll coordinate for next year.
Yeah, we'll coordinate that, you know, and what the work is on the, what are
So-
those parasites for fish?
Yeah.
Mark, you
Yeah, you were
I-
saying that there was a particular parasite that cycles through sticklebacks that people were concerned about.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, Canada has that other whirling fish disease,
Sure.
which we now have in coming down the Sampoil River into the
Yeah.
Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unique to Canada, but it's a nasty disease in fish, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting us barge in today and we'll get better coordinated at the next meeting.
We didn't know it had moved up to 1, but we thought we didn't, you know, we're not too good at checking our email, I guess.
Well, you're welcome
It's
anytime.
loon season, you know?
This
Oh, yeah.
tends to be consistent at this time. One of the discussions we're having today is whether there's going to be enough people for an August meeting. So we may or may not have one. That's in the discussion, and it's already
Okay.
almost 5 o'clock. So
I
that's
know.
something.
Crazy.
Check your email before the next meeting. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
That'll
Okay.
be-
Okay. All right.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
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 So if Erica, you could also send that that document on your age stuff. If it's, I will make sure that both of them are available somewhere. I guess we should take the time while we're here and discuss next meeting because it's already 4. Who's available next meeting? I know that Natasha's not, she has a wedding to go to. But I'm quite happy to take a weekend off. Who is available? Like, who will be here?
I could be available.
Yeah. I'm just not sure yet. Yeah.
Have we met? We've met. We've not made one meeting this year. Like, just only 1 month we haven't made a meeting. I'm inclined myself to think we should forego it for 1 month, but it's up to you guys. Like, we are making the executive decision with this bunch of 12 people right here.
Yeah. I mean, do we have any particular topics we want to focus on?
Nope. And I think the steering committee needs to meet. We need to particularly look for a couple more members of the committee. So I'm thinking end of September might be a good time. It's busy for Jay, but it's always busy for Jay. He doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of that? Jaden doesn't care because he won't be there anyways. All right, so we'll plan on that. No August meeting. Julie, I see you sitting there and do you have anything to share? Well, you have a chance? Or do you rather just sit in the background and just have me ignore you? We'll go with that. Um, and anybody have ideas for topics to consider that they want us to consider in the future?
Well, one question, and I sent this as an email around just to the steering committee earlier today. You know, we have two very active working groups at this point. The stewardship one, and the other one on rehab and rescue. And it's like the Venn diagram. I seem to be noticing both groups developing resources on the Google Drive with significant overlaps. And I'm wondering, you know, should we keep those separate? Should we merge the files? What's the best way to do this in the future to maximize everybody's efforts and time?
Well, what is the definition of significant overlap? Because my thought when it comes to lead resources, well, our information, for example, would be very educational and stewardship oriented. What the rescue and rehab maybe might need to be considerably more clinical. So are we sure there's actual overlap or is it just
Yeah. You know, I can only see this through my blinders, you know,
Yeah.
and I mean, to me, it would be great if there was one folder on lead. And within that lead, there would be a clinical subsection and there would be an educational subsection and there might be some x-rays or something like multiple resources, but all on the same general topic. Another one that strikes me that comes up all the time is platforms. You know, both groups are very actively talking about that and have collected resources and I don't mind the duplication, but I'm wondering if we could save some time and energy.
maybe the two steering committees have to get together and have a conversation together?
Oh, there's
That would be it.
Yeah,
There's an idea versus
Yeah.
bringing in the whole picture. Because I'm actually a little surprised that platform is part of rescue and rehab. Because to me, that's a separate topic and they have so much to deal with. That's a lot for them to take on top of that. But I hear where you're coming from. I'm a little concerned because people can get so overwhelmed with Google Drives. If we start combining those two areas together, it gets to be a lot.
Mhm.
I think most people on our group themselves would have a difficult idea knowing what all we have on our drive, which
Yeah.
is incomplete to begin with. But yeah, so potentially maybe bring that up and if the head of that committee wants to reach out to me, maybe we can pick a date together for a meeting and just do a steering committee as a group, maybe in September. Are
Sounds
you the head
good.
of that group or are you just
Of which group? I'm sorry.
of the rescue and rehab?
I guess. Yeah, I sort of share that with Jay and Nina when she's there, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think for my 2 cents, I think it's a good idea, but I wonder if there's a place where it could live other than the Google Drive. So that people can access all that, because I would be curious what you have rescue and rehab wise that might be useful, you know, education wise for the stewardship group.
Yeah, and that gets really tough. Like, I don't know how far off Birds Canada topics I could do a branded portal. I can do that now, but that's just it. It's a portal. It's not, you can see stuff and you can pull stuff, but you can't edit or anything like that.
Yeah.
So again, we're looking at creating websites, which are a lot of work. And
It is.
somebody has to have the knowledge to handle it.
Yeah.
I'm not really talking websites. I'm talking like a place like Google Drive, but not Google Drive, like someone else's drive that we could put all that stuff in and that we have in common. I don't know if there's a place like that, a FTP site or something that we could utilize. But, that might be helpful. I mean, I could see it being useful for both of us too.
Yeah. You know, one of the things, I'm bringing in another side of this whole thing. A couple of the other working groups I'm on, there's one, the Atlantic Marine Bird Collaborative, where we work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and National Marine Fisheries Service and Environment Canada and a bunch of groups on that. And the federal agencies can't use Google Drive. The only central storage thing, and they can't use Box and they can't use Dropbox. They have to use Microsoft SharePoint.
which is awful.
But I actually went through a training program a couple of weeks, sort of the baby version of how to use SharePoint, because I can't share this stuff with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on any other platform.
Yeah. And that's in itself has its own problems. Like I'm involved with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on one project. And the first thing they informed me is that I have to have Microsoft Office that is online only for the one
Oh,
device that I was
365,
using.
yeah.
And that you have to pay for. And so if you picture an organization like ours that has 129 people, we're not moving there in a hurry. I just find it painful to work with. And I'm told that there's very limitations on what can be uploaded and downloaded. And once you're put on, it's difficult to get it off.
Yeah.
Every single system has problems.
Yeah.
And unless we are willing to actually pay for a service, and that would require us stepping up and putting some money in, and I'm not sure any of us have the budget for it. We're in a difficult position.
Yeah.
So
I mean, let me ask the idiot question, because I don't know. I mean, if you were going to pay for something like that, what would it cost?
that one there, let me put it this way. We were offered a discount for work, and the discount was $2 off per person to put it goes on Microsoft Office. So it must be getting up there. And that was a not-for-profit discount.
Yeah.
Google, if we went to a Google Drive that was paid for, it seems to be relatively affordable. I don't know what other options there are out there at all.
I
I've
don't
never
either.
looked into it.
I mean,
Has anybody?
Dropbox, you can get 2 gig for free. So if we didn't put
But
anything,
two gigs
storage
isn't a whole
points.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I've already got my 2 gigs used up on Dropbox. I should clean that up. So yeah. And Dropbox is what, through Hotmail and Yahoo?
I don't know.
I don't know anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I get where you're coming from. Nothing is stored well. And there's overlap, and maybe we can clean up the overlap a bit. But I don't have a good answer for a good storage way.
Okay. Well, let's keep asking. Maybe somebody else in the steering committee has an idea. Yeah.
We need to bring a techno person into the steering committee. Do we know any? Because maybe that's what we need is somebody more technical. And if I corner our programmer in the fall, I'll ask her what kind of options we have through nature counts. But like there's places in nature counts where we can store things again, and we can set it up so we have multiple administrators that can store things. But again, we don't have that option where we can co-edit and co-work on things.
Yeah. And that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're right back to Microsoft Office or Google. Yeah. Does anybody here work with Microsoft Office SharePoint a lot?
Well, I have to, because through the university, that's what they make us use. Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the state agencies that I work with also require them. I'm not able to open or access Google documents as well. So we typically use the other platforms.
I do a little SharePoint with Northland College, but don't ask us for money.
Yeah, that's just it. Don't ask you guys for
Yeah.
money. Like our nature count system, I think it's a self-built website, but don't quote me on that. But the background maps and all that stuff that we use are Google. So I assume Google must be involved somehow, but I don't know for sure. They could just be using Google within our own web programming.
Well, I mean the corporation that owns Google, what's it called? I think, but they've got a philanthropic branch. I mean, they give grants for tech
Is that
projects.
Meta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, is there somebody there that likes loons? There must be.
Um,
You know, could we get Google to fund it?
Google nonprofit grants is a known thing. We have requested them. And it seems to be about free Google ads. Let me see. I think we'd have to likely have better statements of purpose and stuff like that to go there. Not a school, academic institution, or university. I don't know enough about it. We've applied for them at times. I stay out of the fundraising applications.
Yeah. Well, again, I think we're not going to answer this today, but it's just sort of a series of questions for the larger group as we're thinking about the future.
Yeah. And it's a fair one. Maybe take that back to your next meeting and have a conversation on that. Like, if somebody else wants to go SharePoint, I will have to grumble through and accept it. But it's not something I can organize and do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we only have 10 because we have a grant from Microsoft for nonprofits that allows us 10 working accounts on Microsoft Office 360 or 316 or whatever it is. And that's all we have for it out of all our employees. So they might some point decide that somebody else deserves it better than I do.
Nah.
All right, well, is there anything else you want to discuss over here? We're down to 6 people. Nope.
No, I think we're set for today.
Well, I guess it's time to say goodbye. And Erica and
All right.
Jaden, stay in touch.
Erica, congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll have you come back next year and give us a webinar, okay?
Definitely.
And we'll see everybody in September. I'll send out notes and I'll send out that date information as well.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Jake and Erica, send us your new emails. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Great to
All right.
see you guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.